All right, everyone, so good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started today. All you need is a comfortable surface to practice on and a bottle of water. If you'd like to incorporate some blankets and pillows, you can have one nearby and I'll give you options, but that's definitely not required. We are going to get started today in our child's pose. So bringing the knees close together or taking them as wide as the mat here. Just sinking back into the hips. Allowing the forehead and chest to fall towards the ground. Maybe even closing the eyes here. Just taking these first few moments of class for grounding ourselves, connecting with the breath. Quieting the mind, letting go of any racing thoughts that we have. Just beginning to lengthen the breath with each inhale, feeling the belly expand, maybe pressing against the thighs. With each exhale, feeling the belly release. Belly button draws in towards the spine, maybe sinking even a little bit deeper into the hips. If you'd like to set an intention for our practice this morning, I invite you to do so. This can be letting go of judgment of ourselves and of others in our practice and throughout the day. It can maybe be not rushing throughout our days, just taking one moment at a time, experiencing the present. Whatever we want out of our practice and out of today. Just taking a few deep breaths together on our inhale for 3, 2, 1, and exhaling 3, 2, 1. Taking 2 more breaths like this as a class. Inhaling 3, 2, 1. Maybe even holding at the top, and exhaling 3, 2, 1. Last one, our deepest breath together as a class. Inhaling for 3, 2, 1. Maybe taking another sip at the top here. And exhaling 3, 2, 1. Sealing the lips, breathing in and out of the nose here. Allowing the breath to come to its own natural rhythm. Our next inhale, keeping the forehead or the gaze towards the mat, we'll just go ahead, start to walk the fingertips forward, feeling the side body start to stretch here. Maybe the elbows are off of the mat. Still sinking back into those hips. Now on our next inhale, we'll go ahead and walk the fingertips over towards the right corner of the mat here. And then sitting back into that left hip, really feeling that left side body open. Inhaling, walking our fingertips over towards the left corner of our mat, sinking back into the right hip here. Just breathing into any tight or sticky spaces in the right side body. Inhaling, coming back to center, taking one more breath. And on our next inhale, we can slowly begin to shift our weight forward, coming into a tabletop position here. Our shoulders are over our wrists and our hips are over our knees. We're going to go ahead and move into our cat-cows on our inhale, dropping the belly, lifting the gaze for cow. And exhaling, rounding out through the spine, tucking in the chin for cat. Inhaling for cow. And exhaling for cat. Moving with our own breath at our own pace. Finding any other movements that feel good this morning. Can be rocking back and forth or side to side. You can even kind of draw circles with the spine and our cat and cow. Really just finding any movements that feel good this morning with no judgment. Moving with our breath here. Eventually meeting at a neutral spine. And from here, we're going to go ahead and just kick that right foot back and allow those right toes to fall on the mat here. And just starting to stretch out the back of the leg and the feet here. We can start rocking back and forth. From here, we're going to take this foot and cross it over our heel here. So I'll come to the front so that you can see a little bit better. The foot is crossed over, and we're going to go ahead and just take a look at that right foot. Finding a side stretch along the right side body. It's a bit of a C curve. Just taking one full breath here. Inhaling, the gaze comes back to center, the foot comes back to our tabletop position. And we'll go ahead and switch sides. Inhaling, extending the left leg back behind us, toes plant on the mat. We can go ahead and just start rocking back and forth. From here, we can go ahead and inhale that left leg up and over that foot, crossing over. And then the gaze is going to look towards that left foot here, finding that same little C curve, stretching through that left side body. Inhaling, coming back to center, lifting that left leg. And exhaling back to that tabletop position here. We're going to go ahead and come into a little bit of a spinal balance. So on our inhale, we're going to go ahead and reach the right arm up overhead. The gaze is still down towards the mat here. Fingertips are reaching to the front of the room. And when we're ready, we can go ahead and extend that opposite leg, that left leg back behind us, finding the spinal balance here. We're really drawing the belly button in towards the spine. Just beginning to build some heat in the body and activate the core. Reaching throughout all the way from the heel of the foot through the fingertips. And on our exhale, releasing back down towards the mat to switch sides. Just starting with the left hand, inhaling, reaching up overhead. The gaze stays down in between at our thumb, since just one hand is down. And when we're ready, on our next inhale, we'll go ahead and extend that right leg back. Foot is flexed here. Feeling strong, engaging that core. We're gripping through our fingertips here, sending energy to both sides of the room, feeling strong, and exhaling, releasing back down. Just one more time on each side, inhaling our right arm, left leg, and exhaling to hold here. Inhaling to extend and reach, and exhaling, releasing back down towards the mat. Inhaling the left arm, right leg, and exhaling to hold here. Inhaling to reach, and exhaling, releasing back down towards the mat. On our inhale, we're going to go ahead and tuck the toes and lift the hips, coming into our first downward facing dog this morning. Keeping a very deep bend in the knees. We can start to peel out the feet if we'd like, bending one knee at a time. We're spreading through all 10 fingers. The hips are lifting up towards the sky. The chest is reaching towards the thighs as much as we can. Finding some movement here on our inhale. We're going to go ahead and come up high onto the toes. And exhaling, releasing the heels back down. Inhaling, coming up high onto the toes here. And exhaling, releasing those heels back down. 2 more times. Inhaling, coming up high onto the toes. And exhaling, releasing back down. Inhaling, coming high up onto the toes. And exhaling, releasing back down. This time on our inhale, our gaze is towards the top of our mat. We'll go ahead and travel to the top of our mat. And exhaling, forward fold here. Again, keeping a nice generous bend in the knees, allowing the head to hang heavy. If we'd like, we can grab opposite elbows and sway side to side for our ragdoll. Shaking the head no, nodding the head yes, releasing go of any tension in the neck. And switching the grips of our elbows. On our inhale, we'll go ahead and come to a halfway lift, rolling the shoulder blades back here. The gaze is to the top of our mat. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, sweeping the arms up overhead. And exhaling, hands through heart center. We're going to come back into our chair pose here. So our feet can be close together, or if we'd like, we can walk them just so that they're a little bit hip distance, whatever feels more comfortable. We're drawing our belly button in towards our spine here. Just relaxing the shoulders, starting to build some heat in the legs. Inhaling, we'll rise. And exhaling, hinging at the hips, forward fold. Inhaling for our halfway lift, and exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, sweeping the arms up and over, and exhaling, sinking into that chair pose. Inhaling to rise, and exhaling, hinging at the hips, forward fold. Just one more time with this mini flow. Inhaling to our halfway lift. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, sweeping the arms up and over. And exhaling, sinking into that chair. Inhaling to rise. And this time exhaling, hands at our sides for our mountain pose. Rolling the shoulders back and down. Just taking one full breath here. From our mountain pose, finding a bit of a side stretch. We're going to go ahead and inhale, reaching the arms up overhead. We're going to grab our left wrist here and just slowly start to fall towards the right, grabbing that wrist like so. Not pushing ourselves too far here, just a nice side stretch. Inhaling back to center, and exhaling, just switching the grips. Our left hand grabs the right wrist. And when we're ready, we can slowly fall towards the left here, finding that side stretch. Doing our best to keep that right shoulder still opened up. Inhaling back to center. And exhaling, releasing the arms back down. We're going to go ahead and find a cross-legged forward fold. So we're just going to inhale, reaching the arms up. We're going to cross the right foot over the left here. They don't have to be in line with each other because that is definitely not comfortable. Just crossing your legs here. And exhaling, hinging at the hips. Hand can come to a block or reaching towards the floor here. Just noticing the difference in this forward fold when our legs are crossed. Breathing into any tight spaces. Allowing the head to hang heavy. The crown of the head is pointed towards the floor. We'll inhale, coming to our halfway lift or flat back. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, reaching the arms up overhead. And exhaling, uncrossing the legs, maybe shaking them out really quickly. And we'll switch sides, crossing the left leg over the right. Inhaling to reach the arms up. And exhaling, hinging at the hips, forward fold, just switching sides. Hands can come either to a block if you have one, or just reach towards the floor here. They can fall on the ankle or shin. Releasing go of any tension in the neck. Breathing into any sticky spaces in the back of the legs. We'll go ahead and inhale, coming to our halfway lift. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, sweeping the arms up overhead. And exhaling, unwinding the legs, shaking them out if we'd like. Inhaling to reach the arms up. And exhaling, hinging at the hips for our normal forward fold, keeping a slight bend in the knees here. Inhaling, we'll go ahead and take a deep bend in the knees, planting the hands on the mat here. And on our exhale, we'll go ahead and just step straight back into our downward facing dog. Continuing to warm up those legs here. On our inhale, we're going to go ahead and step our right foot through, placing it in between the hands for a low lunge. If our foot doesn't make it, we can always use our hands to kind of help get there. And dropping that back left knee, keeping the toes tucked. We're going to inhale, coming to a crescent lunge. So arms are up overhead. We find a slight, very slight back bend. If we feel off balance, we can widen our stance. If we feel any discomfort in that back knee, we can put a blanket down. Really inhaling and reaching through, opening up the chest here in our crescent lunge. And exhaling, reframing that front foot, lifting the back knee, and just stepping straight back into our downward facing dog. Switching sides here, inhaling the left foot in between the hands for our low lunge. And exhaling, dropping that back knee here, making any adjustments, putting a blanket down, widening our stance. Inhaling, reaching up and overhead. Maybe finding just a slight back bend, making sure that front knee is directly over our ankle. And exhaling, reframing that front foot, lifting the back knee, and stepping back to our downward facing dog. And from here, we're going to go ahead and come into another child's pose. So taking the knees out wide, allowing the big toes to touch and sinking back into the hips here. Allowing the forehead to rest towards the mat. Just beginning to slow the breath, noticing the warmth we've built in the body so far this morning. Noticing how we're feeling. Taking a few more deep breaths here. We'll be moving into our sun salutations next. So this is one breath per movement. I always like to say it's like a moving meditation, especially in the morning. It's a great way to move throughout the whole body and find a state of flow, kind of. So if you'd like to go at your own pace with your own breath, feel free to. Otherwise, you can follow along with me. If you'd like a little bit of a challenge, since we are a little bit halfway or more than halfway, and if it's safe in your environment, you can always try closing the eyes at some points, and that kind of really helps turn your attention inward if you'd like to try and if you're comfortable. But we will go ahead and start moving into our sun salutation. So on our inhale, we'll start to shift the weight forward, coming into a kneeling plank. So knees come together, the spine is long, shoulders are over the wrists. And on our exhale, we're squeezing the elbows in together at the sides, coming all the way down into the belly. Inhaling, opening up the heart. We're pressing in through the tops of the feet and pulling back on the hands, elbows squeezed together for a baby cobra. And exhaling, pushing back into our downward facing dog. Inhaling, shifting forward to our kneeling plank. And exhaling, elbows at the sides all the way down. Inhaling, opening up the heart. Pulling back on the hands, really creating some tension in the back body here for baby cobra. And this time on our exhale, we'll tuck the toes and lift the hips for downward facing dog. Inhaling, the gaze is forward. We'll travel to the top of our mats. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling for our halfway lift. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, reaching both arms up overhead. And exhaling, hands through heart center, coming into that chair. Inhaling to rise. And exhaling, hinging at the hips, forward fold. Inhaling, taking a deep bend in the knees, planting the hands on the mat. We'll step our left foot back for a low lunge. And exhaling the right foot back for downward facing dog. Inhaling, shifting the weight forward to high plank or dropping the knees for kneeling plank. And exhaling all the way down or halfway. I'll give the upward facing dog option like last week. Inhaling for baby cobra or flipping the toes. The thighs are off of the mat. Widening the collarbones, opening up the chest for that upward facing dog. And exhaling, pushing back for a downward facing dog. Listening to our bodies this morning, not pushing ourselves too far. Inhaling, the gaze is forward. We'll travel to the top of our mats. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling for a halfway lift. And exhaling, fold. Inhaling, sweeping the arms up. exhaling, hands through heart center for our chair pose. Inhaling to rise. And exhaling, swan diving down, forward fold. Inhaling for a halfway lift. And exhaling, forward fold. Taking a deep bend in the knees here so we can plant the hands down, stepping the right foot back this time for our low lunge. And exhaling the left foot back for our downward facing dog. Inhaling, shifting the weight forward to high plank or kneeling plank. And exhaling, chaturanga. Elbows at the sides coming all the way down or halfway. Inhaling to baby cobra or upward facing dog here. And exhaling back to our downward facing dog. We'll be moving through our sun salutations 2 more times. So like I said before, feel free to go at your own pace if you'd like with your own breath. I'll give a little bit less cues so that you can really just focus on tuning inwards and noticing how you're feeling. So with that, inhaling, the gaze is forward. We'll travel to the top. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, halfway lift. And exhaling, fold. Inhaling, sweeping the arms up. And exhaling for chair. Inhaling to rise. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling to plant the hands, stepping the left foot back for low lunge. And exhaling back to downward facing dog. Inhaling to kneeling plank or high plank. And exhaling chaturanga, whichever version looks like for you right now. And on our exhale, meeting back in our downward facing dog. Inhaling, the gaze is forward. We'll travel to the top. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, halfway lift. And exhaling, fold. Inhaling, sweeping the arms up. And exhaling, sinking into our chair. Inhaling to rise. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling to plant the hands, stepping the right foot back for a low lunge. And exhaling the left foot back for down dog. Inhaling, shifting the weight forward for a high plank or kneeling plank. And exhaling, chaturanga, whatever that looks like this morning. And after this chaturanga, we'll all meet back in our child's pose. Just taking a few moments here. You can grab a sip of water if you'd like. Just reconnecting with the breath, noticing how we're feeling after our sun salutations. Trying to lengthen the breath here. Maybe we notice that our breath is a little faster. Maybe we can hear, feel our heartbeat. Just trying to reground ourselves in this child's pose. When we're ready, taking our time, there's no rush. We'll all meet back in our downward facing dog. And from our downward facing dog, we'll go ahead and start to center the left foot in the middle of the mat. And inhaling, reaching that right leg up towards the sky for a three-legged dog here. That right foot can be pointed or flexed. Doing our best to keep that right hip pointed towards the mat here so our hips are nice and squared. And on our exhale, stepping that right foot through, placing it in between the hands for that low lunge. Taking one full breath here. We can tent the fingertips or maybe even bring the hands onto blocks here. Opening up the heart. And on our next inhale, we'll go ahead and spin that back foot down, windmilling the arms up and around, and coming straight into our warrior two pose. I'm going to turn around so that you guys are seeing my front. So we should be able to see our big toe just on the inside of our knee here, keeping that bend in that front knee. Lifting up through the side body, extending out through both hands, sending energy to both sides of the room through our fingertips. Feeling nice and strong, relaxing the shoulders. And on our next inhale, we'll go ahead and shift the weight forward, flipping that front palm. And exhaling to reverse our warrior. Back hand can just rest on the thigh, reaching that right arm up towards the sky here, finding length in that side body. And inhaling, we're going to go ahead and bring that right elbow to right knee, coming into our side angle pose. Left arm reaches up towards the sky here. Keeping that bend in the right knee. The gaze can be up through that left hand. If it feels good on the neck, or it can be down towards the mat. Really opening up and rolling back that left rib cage here. And inhaling, lifting ourselves all the way up. And exhaling, sinking into that warrior two. And from here, we're going to go ahead. We can bring our hands to our hips. We're going to point both toes towards the long edge of our mat here. We can step in a little bit. We want our toes to be at a diagonal. We're going to inhale, reaching the arms up overhead. And exhaling, sinking into both knees here. Squeezing the elbows in at the sides, having nice big hands. This is our horse pose. So we're going to just find 2 full rounds of breath here. Starting to build some heat in the body. We can be as high into the squat as we'd like or as low as we'd like, just listening to our bodies. Drawing the belly button in, taking one more full round of breath. And exhaling, we'll go ahead and forward fold here. We can point our toes directly to the long edge of our mat. Keeping a slight bend in the knees, allowing the head to hang heavy. We can have some options here. We can just find stillness in this straddle forward fold, or we can find movement. We can bend one knee at a time if we'd like, or we can find that ragdoll again. Whatever feels best. And from here, we're going to go ahead and walk our hands towards the front of our mat here, reframing that front foot, coming into a low lunge. I'm backwards because I turned around. And on our exhale, we'll go ahead and step that right foot back, coming into our downward facing dog. You can find stillness in our downward facing dog here. If we'd like to, we can find an optional chaturanga. Inhaling, shifting to plank. And exhaling, whatever variation of chaturanga works best for us. We can always find a child's pose. Just taking those few moments for us. We'll have another option for that. And when we're ready, we'll start to switch sides. So starting to center the right foot in the middle of the mat. Inhaling the left leg up towards the sky for a 3-legged dog. We're spreading through all 10 fingers here, keeping a slight bend in that standing knee. Feeling strong here in our 3-legged dog. And inhaling, we'll go ahead and step that left foot through, placing it in between the hands for a low lunge. And then finding any adjustments while we're here. We can tent up onto the fingertips if we'd like. Opening up the chest here. Always having the option to put our hands on blocks if we'd like. When we're ready on our next inhale, we'll go ahead and spin that back foot down, windmilling the arms up and around, and exhaling, sinking into our warrior two on this side. Feeling strong here, noticing how we're feeling, reconnecting with the breath. Maybe even finding a smile. And on our next inhale, we'll go ahead and shift the weight forward, flipping that front palm. And exhaling to reverse our warrior. Back hand can rest on the thigh, keeping that bend in the front knee. Finding length throughout the left side body. And inhaling, lifting through that left arm. And exhaling, lift elbow to knee, right arm reaches up towards the sky for our side angle pose. Again, we're really rolling that right rib cage, shoulder, and hip back, pretending to be almost between two panes of glass here. The gaze can be up through that right hand or down towards the mat. And on our next inhale, reaching through that right arm, and exhaling, sinking into that warrior two. Again, on our inhale, we're going to go ahead and point both toes back towards the long edge of our mat at a diagonal here. Inhaling, reaching the arms up overhead, and exhaling, sinking into both knees, finding that horse pose or goddess pose again. Drawing that belly button in towards our spine here. We're squeezing the elbows in together, feeling strong. Taking one more full round of breath here. And when we're ready, we can go ahead and fold forward, pointing the feet straight. They don't have to be diagonal. Allowing the head to hang heavy, just finding that straddle forward fold again. If we'd like to find a little bit of a twist, we can walk the hands out a bit and centering the left hand in the middle. We can inhale, reaching that right arm up overhead. The gaze follows. If you'd like to find a twist. Doing our best here to still keep the weight even in both feet. We tend to sink into a hip. So if we keep our weight even, the twist will come more from the spine. Taking one more inhale to reach through that right arm. And exhaling, releasing down and just switching sides. Centering that right hand and inhaling the left arm up. The gaze follows if it feels good on the neck. The weight is even in the feet. Just breathing here. Taking one more deep inhale. And exhaling, releasing back down. Taking any last final movements that may feel good in the straddle forward fold. And same thing when we're ready, we can go ahead and just walk our fingers over towards the front of our mat, reframing that front foot for a low lunge. And exhaling, stepping that left foot back for a downward facing dog. Having the same options here as before, we can find stillness in our downward facing dog. We can find a child's pose, or if we'd like, find an optional chaturanga, inhaling to high plank or kneeling plank, and exhaling chaturanga if we'd like to find that movement. Staying gentle with ourselves this morning, bending one knee at a time. Taking a few more breaths here, wherever we're at. And on our next inhale from our downward facing dog, the gaze is forward. We'll travel to the top of our mats. And exhaling, forward fold here. Inhaling for our halfway lift. And exhaling, fold. Inhaling, sweeping the arms up towards the sky. And exhaling, hands through heart center. We're at our sides here. Coming into our balancing pose this morning. This is going to be a little bit of a challenge today, so I invite you to just do our best, no judgment. We've been doing a lot to help warm up the feet and ankles and the legs this morning, so this is called our balancing butterfly pose. It's similar to our yogi squat or malasana that we tried last week. I always invite you to bring blocks into your practice and just listen to your body and don't push ourselves too far. But on our inhale, we can go ahead and sink into our chair pose. We can bring our hands to heart center, coming into that chair pose here, drawing the belly button in towards the spine, just finding stability here. And when we're ready, we can slowly come up onto the toes here. And from here, we're going to go ahead and turn the knees out wide, the heels, and then if you can get the balls of the feet together, it can come together. And we can stay here, we can come down if we'd like. This is amazing for working with feet and ankle stability and those little muscles in the feet. It's great for easing tight hips, easing tight feet, achy feet, still strengthening the legs. We can play with how far down we can go here. This is the full expression, but this is a lot, especially in the morning. So just playing with wherever we're at. It's not easy. Taking one more breath. Opening up through the chest here. And on our exhale, wherever we're at, we'll go ahead and reach the hands forward, releasing the feet, shaking out the legs, and a little bit of a forward fold here. Amazing job, everybody. I know I can't see you, but I'm sure you looked great. We'll go ahead and inhale, coming to that halfway lift. And exhaling, forward fold, deep bend in the knees to plant the hands down. We'll just step straight back into our last downward facing dog of our class this morning. Maybe noticing how this one feels compared to our very first one. Pedaling out the feet if we'd like. And from here, we can go ahead and drop the knees, untuck the toes. Coming all the way up to a seated position for a hero's pose. If it's uncomfortable to sit on the knees, please take another comfortable seated position here. If you'd like to, we can sit on a pillow as well. We're just going to find a simple side stretch here. So inhaling, the right hand comes to the side. We'll go ahead and reach that left arm up, reaching overhead. Coming back through center, planting the left hand down, inhaling the right arm up overhead. And exhaling, coming back to center. We can go ahead and sit to one side, swinging the legs around, coming to the tops of our mats. Bringing the soles of the feet onto the mat. The hands can be underneath the thighs, or if you'd like a little bit more of a challenge, you can reach them out in front of us, palms up. Just listening to our bodies, taking a deep inhale together. And then as slow as possible, we'll slowly start to roll back, just one vertebrae at a time, really starting to feel that core activate. Until we melt all the way down onto the mat here. We're going to move into our bridge pose. So bringing the feet next to the hips, arms are at our sides, palms down. If you have a block, I invite you to put the block in between your thighs to help squeeze the thighs together. Helps make this a little bit more effective, and it's a good reminder. If you don't have one, you absolutely don't need one. We're going to go ahead and take a deep inhale together, and on our exhale, pressing through the feet and the hands, we'll go ahead and lift those hips up to the sky here. All of the weight should be in our shoulders, keeping our head nice and still. Keeping the knees close together, pointed straight towards the front of the room. And we'll go ahead and exhale, releasing the hips down towards the mat here. You can maybe even windshield wipe the knees side to side, massaging the lower back in between. And coming back to center, taking one deep inhale together as a class. And then our exhale, pressing in through the feet and the hands, lifting up the hips here. This time we can try and activate our hamstrings instead of our glutes, just by creating some tension by pulling our heels in towards the chest here, and you'll really feel the hamstrings start to activate. Keeping those hips lifted here, pulling the feet towards the chest. And exhaling, releasing back down. We're going to find this one more time. If you'd like to, we can windshield wipe our legs in between. And coming back to center to our last one, taking a deep inhale together. And exhaling, lifting up the hips here. This time we can squeeze the glutes. If we'd like to, we can maybe tuck the shoulders in underneath us and clasp the hands underneath the back. Whatever is in our practice this morning, keeping those hips high. Wherever we're at, we can go ahead and slowly release the hips back towards the mat. We'll inhale both knees into the chest here, starting to draw circles with the knees, massaging the back. And switching directions of our circle here. You can go ahead and inhale the right knee into the chest, sending the left leg out long. And then our exhale, taking that right knee out towards the right, towards our armpit here, opening up that inner thigh. And when we're ready, taking that right knee across the body, finding a twist. The arms come out to a T or cactus, depending on your space. And the gaze is over the right shoulder. Just breathing here, feeling the belly rise and fall with each breath. Inhaling slowly, coming back to center, hugging in that right knee one more time. And exhaling to switch sides, setting the right leg out long, hugging the left knee into the chest. And on our next exhale, taking that left knee out to the left, pulling it towards the armpit, opening up that inner thigh. And when we're ready, on our exhale, taking that left knee across the body, finding the same twist, arms come out to a T or cactus, gaze is over the left shoulder. Inhaling, slowly rocking back to center, hugging in that left knee. We'll go ahead and plant that left foot on the mat here, coming into a figure 4. Right ankle comes on top of the knee, keeping that right foot flexed. We feel a little bit of a stretch here in that hip. We can stay here if we'd like to. If our hips are a little bit more open, we can reach through that keyhole and grab underneath the thigh, keeping both feet flexed here. And just breathing into those hips. Slowly releasing our grip and just switching sides, planting the right foot down. The left ankle comes on top of the knee. Maybe noticing how the side feels a little different. You can always stay here if we'd like. If our hips are a little bit more open, we can reach through that keyhole and grab underneath the thigh, keeping both feet flexed. Releasing the hands, coming into one last hip opener here. We're going to hug both knees into the chest. We can stay here if we'd like, otherwise we're going to come into our happy baby. So bringing the knees out wide, the feet come up to the sky here. Our hands can be underneath the thighs or they can reach for the outside edges of the feet here. The hips are nice and wide. Once we're here, we can start to rock side to side, massaging the long edge of the spine. Releasing go of that tension that we carry on our hips. From here, we'll go ahead and release the feet or thighs. We're going to keep the legs and the arms reaching up towards the sky here for our dead bug pose. So our hips are nice and relaxed on the mat. Our shoulders are nice and relaxed. And we're just reaching our arms and feet up towards the sky. Nothing super active. This is really good for circulation. If you'd like to, you can maybe shake out the arms and the legs. From here, whenever we're ready, we can go ahead and inhale, the arms up overhead, the legs out long here, finding our good morning stretch, feeling length throughout the whole body. And exhaling, releasing the arms at our sides or on the body, wherever comfortable. Taking the feet as wide as the mat here, taking up as much space as we need. You can bring any pillows in here if you'd like, any blankets, putting on any layers. Just preparing for our final relaxation, or Shavasana. Allowing the eyes to draw closed here. Finding any last adjustments until we can finally allow the body to settle. Settling into arguably one of the most challenging poses or postures in our practice today. Just being still. We rarely allow ourselves to just take a moment. Notice how we're feeling, noticing the breath. Finding stillness in the mind, the body. Just allowing ourselves to be here in this present moment, feeling fully supported by the earth. Releasing go of tension in any spaces that need it. In the face, the shoulders, the hips, all the way down through the feet. Just surrendering. We can always remind ourselves of our intention that we set at the beginning of practice. Continuing this intention throughout our day today. Just bring our full attention to that intention or to our breath for these next few moments. I invite you to stay in our Shavasana for 5 to 10 minutes longer if you have the time. Otherwise, we can start to bring our awareness back into our environment by wiggling the toes, wiggling the fingers, maybe even rocking the head side to side. And slowly taking our time, when we're ready, we can inhale one arm up overhead. And then our exhale, slowly rolling over to whatever side that was. Coming into our fetal position. The knees are bent. We're using that arm as a pillow. And from here, using our top hand, we can go ahead and slowly press ourselves up to a comfortable seated position. Bringing the hands to heart center. Just taking a moment to thank ourselves for taking the time out of our day for our practice this morning. And taking the time to honor our bodies for all it's allowed us to do throughout this practice. The light within me honors the light within each of you. Namaste. Thank you all so much for coming. I hope that you enjoyed class, and I really hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.